Hey, what up, YouTube? Just got off work. Honestly, pretty tired, but I don't know how I have the energy to make this video right now. But I just had thoughts about it. Right now is a very quiet-ish, slow-ish period, in the sense that, right, things have been put out there that are supposedly happening, but in reality, we don't really know, right? So I want to say the last video I made, that one was more about Hawaii becoming a full member, and then the Mountain West Conference's next moves. And then even then, it was, and I should have said, well, this is speculation, right? So this is a speculation episode. Even then, I think I said in that video that, things, there's serious talks, things are heating up, right? And I had to go back and think about that. There was somebody who said it, but there weren't like multiple ton of sources that were like, yeah, this is something that's actually happening. This is, right, we're safely assuming that what's happening right now is the Mountain West is communicating with NIU, communicating with Toledo, which is funny because this is the eve of NIU's homecoming, and the game is against Toledo Saturday. But the thoughts were, or they are, that the Mountain West Conference is having this dialogue, having this communication. Some sort of correspondence or something is happening. In reality, nobody really knows. I don't think, actually thinking about this, I don't think we've actually heard, NIU's athletic director come out and say at all that the Mountain West Conference has been in touch or communicated. There's been something formal or yada, 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 right? That hasn't necessarily, nothing's really come out, right? I don't even think we've really heard anything directly from the Mountain West Conference commissioner, anything about necessarily moves that have been made. Have they reached out to NIU? Have they reached out to Toledo? Right? But everything kind of points to, right, like the last piece of insider source information is kind of what has stirred all this up. So that was that. I think that's kind of what this is really about, because the same day, right, that piece of insider news came out, and that was, to me, that I consider that a credible source where it came from. Because, of course, later that day, it was 100% confirmed that Hawaii is officially going to be a full-time member, in all sports. What was also said in that kind of tweet, post, whatever you want to call it, that's where you heard the whole, Mountain West next steps are, a serious push. Their next major move is speaking to NIU, speaking to Toledo. I know another thing I've heard since that day to now, because it's been a few days. Like it's been some time has gone by since that went out. From there to now, I think I've actually heard, and I think it might have been, I can't remember if the commissioner actually said this or, once again, a credible source, somebody with the conference. I think something was out there or put out there where maybe just 9 members for football, right? So that gets kind of interesting to me, because I'm like, if 9, me personally, 9, that's not a strong number unless you plan on bringing in just so many schools that will be basketball, and these are like strong schools for basketball. That's the only way I can see certain things panning out. Like, for instance, like we said, we've seen the Pacific Athletic Conference add Gonzaga, Why would Gonzaga join the PAC? Because they're potentially going to earn more in media rights than they've ever earned before, being where they've been for however many years they've been there, right? Gonzaga is walking into that conference viewing themselves as the clear-cut best team when it comes to basketball, which for the most part I would say is the truth. They are the best team in that conference when it comes to basketball. Yeah, right. They're going to make more than they've ever made. It's that simple. They're going to make more than they've ever made. Because more than likely, whatever media rights deal the PAC gets, it's gonna be, I mean, like I said, my estimates, and I feel like not a lot of people's estimates, they feel the potential deal could be over $7 million, right? And why would it have to be over $7 million? Well, they need it to be over 7 mil, right? They need that number to be a nice solid 10 mil payout, anywhere, something like that, 10, 15 mil payout. They need it to be that number so they can 100% make that push to try to steal some schools from the American Athletic Conference. None of the AAC schools are going to leave if their payout is the same or less, right? They have no reason to leave. People have to understand that. No school is going to take a pay cut. Like, just no school's going to take a pay cut. There's nothing, I can't even think of a scenario where a school would take a pay cut. Like, that's a if and only if type of situation. School may take a pay cut if and only if their media rights contract is about to expire, and maybe you see like schools running for the hills, right? So that would literally be the situation that Washington State and Oregon State were in. Their contract essentially was expiring / I guess did expire. And then next thing you know, you saw schools jumping ship left and right. And due to that situation, like I said, you have 4 schools that went to the Big Ten. You got 2 schools that are in the ACC. You got 4 schools that went to the Big 12. 10 of the 12 schools bounced. Like, they were gone. Like, Oregon State and Washington State or who left. And that was primarily because there was nowhere else left to go. Right? There was literally nowhere else left to go. That's why a lot of people believed, and I guess there may have been some sort of inside source, because this is something else I believe that came out also. They believed that there was going to be a merger between the PAC and the Mountain West, but we see that went the route it went. So yeah, like, schools don't leave a conference to take a pay cut. They don't leave a conference to take a pay cut. So like I said, you have what you have right now. The PAC is going to go after these AAC schools. They need their media rights evaluation or whatever to come in nice and healthy. And then, yeah, like, you got the Mountain West Conference, who I believe I heard, and that's the thing. It's like, when I saw it, I should have bookmarked it, saved it, triple checked it. But there's a chance, and what I read was they may just be trying to reach 9 for football, and then that's it. They'd be fine with the 9 for football. 9 for football, you run an 8-team, you basically would play every school in the conference, right? It's that simple. You're going to play every school in the conference. You'll have your conference championship be the 2 schools with the best record, right? You might have a tiebreaker type of situation in there, but that's what it would be. And that would be the Mountain West Conference on the football side. Like I said, they could be potentially trying to add basketball schools just like how the PAC did. And like I said, who are you going to add? I know some people are saying Grand Canyon University. Some are saying, maybe the Mountain West goes after St. Mary's, which could be doable. In my mind, I still have the PAC going after St. Mary's, but they haven't yet. The PAC hasn't really done anything for a little while. there's some things, and like I said, this is where it's now getting into the speculation, because technically it's all been speculation, but this is all definitely speculation. Why are we not hearing anything, right? And what could be potentially going on? I think what could be potentially happening right now is, let's say the Mountain West did reach out. They have reached out to NIU and Toledo. I believe there's potentially a few other schools that they may have reached out to, but they have reached out to NIU and Toledo. Why are NIU and Toledo so important to the Mountain West? There's been this population map that's been floating around social media. When I say social media, I mainly mean Twitter. It's a population map, so it shows a map of the United States. It shows all the counties, and all the counties that are in yellow, all those counties combined together make up more, I believe more, or about 50% of the population, right? So these counties alone make up 50% of the United States population, right? These other counties, essentially less than 50%. So when you look at what or who the Mountain West is targeting, right? You got NIU on that map. You got Toledo. Sam Houston has popped up on that map. It's also adding the schools that were already there. So you also have UTEP, a new addition that's on that map. And what you notice is like, well, NIU is not in Chicago, but it is near Chicago. NIU benefits from the Chicago media market. Is it directly in Chicago? No. But NIU does benefit from that media market, plus the time zone. Toledo, Ohio, has quite a decent amount of yellow. Like I said, Ohio is the state that is full of mid-level cities. Like there's a ton of little mid-level cities in Ohio, right? They don't have that one clear-cut defined, this is our big major city. They have a bunch of like medium-level large cities, right? You got your Cleveland, right? To me, I would consider Cleveland potentially the largest. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cincinnati is the largest in Ohio. But you got Cleveland and Cincinnati. Toledo's also a pretty populated city. Columbus, Akron, like you have different little spots, right? But Ohio doesn't have a Chicago. Ohio doesn't have a New York. It doesn't have a LA, right? Ohio is just spread out different pockets of pretty large populations. But like I said, not a Chicago level type of city or anything like that. Also, where Toledo's located, that's the Eastern time zone. Why does this matter? Why are NIU and Toledo so important? Well, Central time zone and Eastern time zone would allow Mountain West teams to actually play at earlier times of the day, right? Most of those Mountain West games, when you really look at them, like they can play at certain times, but when you really look at them, like I've actually been noticing this now more than ever before. It's like, yeah, those games come on pretty much later in the day. Like those games might come on 7 p.m. their time, which you have to realize is 9 p.m. Central. Like if this is a 7 p.m. Pacific game, that's 9 Central, that's 10 p.m. on the East Coast. Yeah, those games are pretty late. But now if we have NIU is a party like that big noon type of game. Oh, so 11 a.m. kickoff, 11:15, right, Central time. You're able to get these Mountain West schools into time slots they traditionally have never been in, right? People would be able to watch them at times that you would never really see, which could increase clearly it would increase viewership. Because like I said, if you have two schools in the same time zone, and they're playing each other, like I said, if their game is a 7 p.m. game, it's gonna be late for everybody else, right? That Toledo game, if Toledo has a 12 o'clock game, then it's gonna be 11 a.m. for us. Like, I know for the West Coast, it might suck a little bit because, well, now it's now 9 in the morning for them, right? So maybe we find that middle ground that works, and you would be able to do that by expanding your footprint time zone wise. That's the reason why, like, if some people haven't understood, like, why is NIU a major target? Why is Toledo also even a major target? The more obvious part is that these are actually good football teams. These are good football programs. Let's be honest, let's be straight up. They would not be going after these two particular schools if it were like, these schools are typically middle of the pack or the bottom of the barrel in their conference every year. You're not going after NIU or Toledo. You just aren't. Let's be straight up. You aren't. Because they are actually good football teams, which typically equates to pretty decent TV when you have winning football teams. Yeah. People say what they say or may say what they say or think what they think about NIU. And I remember I tweeted this the other day. I was like, NIU has been a school waiting. They've been praying for the opportunity to be just on regular damn TV, right? Our games are on ESPN Plus now more than ever before. It's sick. It's truly sick. I feel like I've seen more games from everybody else ending up on ESPN too, or this channel or that channel. MAC games, they're getting straight bottom of the barrel. We're going to almost act like they don't exist. And here's the thing. When you're on ESPN Plus, let's say you do get on ESPN Plus to watch a game. It's not like ESPN Plus has a couple of games. ESPN Plus got so many games on there. Like, you may end up, turning something else on. So you're now also competing against all the other games that are on ESPN Plus. Now, reality, if I'm getting on ESPN Plus to watch the NIU game, that's what I'm watching. But yes, every once in a blue moon, which would actually benefit ESPN, it's not necessarily benefiting NIU or anything. It benefits ESPN. Every once in a blue moon, when that game, I'm watching the NIU game, and it's on ESPN Plus, well, when that game's over, I might switch to something else. Or when it's halftime, I'm browsing some of the other games. Here's how messed up things are. Actually, now that I think about it. When NIU was ranked for like 2 seconds, if I remember correctly, I'm fairly certain that NIU game was on ESPN Plus. So you had an actual straight up ranked football team, like the 25th ranked football team in the country, and the game was still on ESPN Plus. It wasn't on, like, ESPN wasn't like, oh, we can flex this, let's do this, let's make this happen, we can try to do this, that. We are in that bad of a viewership type of situation where it was like, yeah, y'all are ranked what y'all are ranked, but this is the only place we can put y'all. It makes me wonder, like, what if NIU was ranked 15 or ranked 10th in the nation? Is it purely because still at the end of the day, regardless of one school's rank, this is still a MAC football game, and yeah, we're not gonna flex y'all to this or change this or do this so we can get that school on at least regular television. So yeah. NIU benefits on the other hand, or on the other end of things, NIU benefits financially. Of course, we have every NIU fan on earth, because the one key thing to keep in mind, this would be a football-only type of deal between NIU/Toledo and the Mountain West Conference. Well, if it's football only, what happens to all the other sports? We'd have to drop down, and I wouldn't necessarily even say drop down, because it still would be Division I, but it just more than likely wouldn't be in the MAC anymore. So that's what would have to happen. I know the last episode, I talked about the potential landing spots for all the other sports. I know a lot of people say Olympic sports and whatnot, so basketball, this, that, the other, right? Horizon, the Horizon League, Ohio Valley, Missouri Valley. It would have to be one of those three. It would have to be one of those three. I know the Horizon League pretty much has, if I remember correctly, no Illinois teams in it. So it's kind of like they're in every spot except for Illinois, but they're in that general area, that region of the world. I know Missouri and Ohio, they have Illinois schools in them. One of them, I want to say it's the Missouri Valley. I want to say it's the Missouri. I still can't remember which one it is. One of them, I believe, already has like 4 Illinois schools in it. So, yeah. That's all of that. So for anybody who doesn't understand, like, why would NIU go to the Mountain West? What's the potential thing that's kind of hindering that? Well, you have to understand those two things to make this all make sense, right? So, like I said, all speculation. If Mountain West is talking to NIU, it makes sense why you don't hear anything, because NIU is not in a position or situation to just instantly pull the trigger. They can't. I truly don't believe they can. It's more of a situation where it's like NIU, by now talking to NIU, and if your invite is football only, which would be the most logical thing for NIU at this point in time, right? We can't commit to all sports because there's a huge difference between 4 away games for football versus, well, now we also have to do all the away games for basketball as well. Yeah, it's just 2 different situations. Yeah, they can't afford a all sports membership to the Mountain West Conference at the moment. They just can't. And that leads to that situation. So if Mountain West, let's say, like I said, with all the speculation, let's say the Mountain West has reached out to NIU. Let's say they have reached out to Toledo, but I'm primarily going to focus on NIU. That conversation, like I said, it's not like the UTEP convo. Like we heard, Mountain West offered Texas State. Texas State essentially, talks were going this way, talks were going that way, and then just kind of things fizzled out. And then Texas State is staying put. You know, there was the comment or the mention that, well, Texas State would have to pay like $8 million to leave the Sun Belt, yada, yada, yada. But then you also hear, like, right when that falls apart, you literally hear, well, UTEP got an invite, and UTEP, it was like instantaneous. It was like, damn, like UTEP got an invite, and then UTEP has also, it took them pretty much no time to join. Like they were pretty quick about it. They were pretty quick with it. They did not hesitate. Right, and they're an all sports member. NIU would have to, like, it would have to take some time because it creates a domino effect where it's, and I have believed this, and I would prefer this. I purely would prefer if NIU leaves, Toledo's coming as well. Because it makes things a bit easier. It really does. It makes things a bit easier. Both of those schools leaving the MAC and going to the Mountain West, it sweetens the pot. NIU just leaving and going to the Mountain West, I don't know. It just doesn't feel as right. It doesn't feel as right. Right? It seems like it's a bit easier to make that decision, to put all that together, to work that out and figure that out, if it's both of them leaving and going. Right? Because now they can kind of lean on each other a bit. Right? These are two schools that have known each other the last 20 plus years. They've known each other longer than that. But these are two schools that know each other. Right? They know each other. NIU football only, before they can accept a football only offer, in all honesty, they have to find a spot for everything else. So they can't accept that offer. And I'm sure this has been communicated. They can't just accept that offer. It's okay, you've expressed us that you want us in your conference, right? Here's what the exit fee will be for the MAC. Can you all help with that? More than likely they can. But also, right, we can't just up and leave. Like, we have to, like, MAC is not allowing us to stay for basketball, this, that, the third. We have to, before we can really truly just up and make this decision, we have to move all our other sports. So what that now, once again, creates is a situation, if this is what's going on, all speculation, if this is what's going on, NIU is now also communicating with, like I said, Horizon League, Ohio Valley, Missouri Valley. They're communicating, like I said, most likely with all three, or maybe it might be a situation where they're communicating with one at a time. Maybe they're communicating with the Missouri Valley. And then those communications are going whichever way they're going. It's just all time. It's all time. Like, this is what I would say. Here's the best analogy for this. If you're a homeowner, right? If you bought a home before, you've probably bought 2 or 3 homes at this point in your life, right? You know, you've lived a nice chunk of life. You know how the game goes. Here's the best analogy for this. A lot of people sell their home or buy a new home based on the contingency of the sale of their current home, right? I can't move in, or we can't finalize this deal until I sell my other home. Are you fine with that, right? So here's the home you want. Here's the house you want. Here's the Mountain West. I want to move in. I want to give you the money to buy this house, but a lot of the money that I'm putting toward buying your house from you, because you're trying to sell and move on as well, a lot of the money I'm going to use is the capital or whatnot from my current house that's also up on the market. And if you agree to a deal, a contract, whatever, time permitting, if you're fine with me selling my home first to then help with the financing, closing costs, whatever of purchasing your property, then we're all good. That happens all the time. Somebody right now, it's what time is it? It's 3:11 p.m. on a Friday. Somebody right now, they have their agent, they're talking to somebody else's agent, and that's the exact conversation that's being had. Well, my client, they're in the middle of selling their house. They want to buy this house. Clearly, like, once they sell their house, they'll have XYZ, we have quite a few people currently trying to buy their house, right? But are you okay with whatever contingency, right? We lock in on purchasing your home for this price, but we have to wait for the sale of my client's home. And yeah, they'll be like, yeah, sure. We're good. You're paying the number we're asking for. That's fine. You're not looking for this, that, the other. We got the time. It's not even a super rush right now. Yeah, we can do that. It happens every day in the real estate game. It's the same exact situation, I would say, when it comes to college sports. NIU would be converting itself to essentially an Army Navy type of situation. They would be converting themselves to an Army Navy type of situation. I can't think of a third at the moment. I'm trying to think of a third school that does this, but the for sure is Army and Navy. Army and Navy football compete in the American Athletic Conference, but the rest of their sports, I want to say, are like the Patriot League or something like that. They're not in the American Athletic Conference. Navy basketball does not compete in the AAC. Army basketball does not compete in the AAC. They don't. They're in a whole total different conference. They're a different league. NIU would literally be doing the same thing. So this would be, if anything, one of the few times I think you see a straight up FBS level football team, right? This is all like, we're almost kind of sort of going into uncharted waters in a sense, because I mean, I would think Army and Navy, their other sports have probably been in the same spot for a long time. They've probably set up camp, parked, built a home where they are and have stayed there when it comes to basketball and everything else. They have no intention of moving those other sports. But what they realize is, they've always essentially, when it comes to football, they've been able to compete at a higher level, right? They've realized a long time ago when it comes to basketball and everything else, no. But when it comes to football, yes. This would be the first time I think we're seeing, that I can think of, in this modern era of collegiate sports, where we're seeing a team essentially agree to, a non-military school agree to kind of go that same route, where they're like, we're willing to essentially kind of detach our football program and move them one place, and then everything else sets up camp here, right? The football program might be big enough of a chess piece that it can go out on its own, whereas everything else is going to stay here and defend and, set up shop and plant roots, and right, whether it be permanent or short term. But the football program is strong enough, big enough, right? It has the right things to be able to go out on its own. So, and I'm like, that's the first time we're seeing it. And people got to think about it, right? Have we ever even seen? We haven't seen it. We haven't seen schools doing football only, other than Army. Navy has been in the AAC a little minute. So they've kind of been put, right? Army, we can essentially say, is the last school to kind of do that. Technically, I guess we can kind of say UConn, right? UConn is independent at the FBS level. UConn is also just kind of looking for a home. So it's not completely a shock. I guess it's not completely. I mean, I guess it's not. I gotta take it. I gotta roll back a little bit, but I guess it'll be more of the sense of, this would be the first time you're seeing a school be in a conference. Let me rephrase. This would be the first time we're seeing a FBS level school play in a conference and then kind of detach itself for football only and play and then move to another conference. What we've been seeing is, okay, well, this school is in this conference, and then they went independent. Right? They may go independent, essentially football only. They go independent, and then they end up moving somewhere else. I think that's what we've seen some schools do. All right, we've seen some schools do that. UConn basketball is in the Big East, and they've been in the Big East. And as of right now, they're still going to be in the Big East. I'm saying that because, like I said, I feel like the PAC is they're trying. The PAC is going to try, right? They want UConn. If they can get UConn some way somehow, they want UConn. But yeah, they're in the Big East, and they're dominating. They're a top 3 school every, like, it's UConn. It's UConn basketball. Even if they have a couple of off years, like, they bounce back. Like, UConn is pretty much kind of set for the next 1 bajillion years when it comes to basketball. Like, that is where you go. We're going to give you the highest and best odds of going pro, winning a title, doing this, doing that, right? Come to UConn. Yeah, right. It really just hit me just now, recording this for y'all. I'm like, yo, we're seeing something. We would be seeing something I don't think I've ever seen. I've never seen, in all honesty, a school do that. I don't think I've ever seen it. I think sometimes you may see some sports transition over, and then the other sports may come like a year or 2 later, right? That's different because the plans entail that, well, yeah, this school will become an all sports member, right? It's just that all the sports aren't just going to all transition at once, right? But the goal is clearly this school is going to move over their different teams to this conference. And IU's not doing that. And IU's like, we're not moving Olympic sports, all sports, whatever, to the Mountain West. We would just be moving football to the Mountain West. Everything else, we just wouldn't be in the MAC anymore. We're going to find a new home and keep it pushing. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I think, like, once again, I don't know if this is the last time we'll see any major moves. I do think there will be one more period of major movement once, you know, all the ACC stuff ends up going down, right? That will be the next time you see power conference teams move around and shift and all that fun stuff. And that might be one, I would think that should be one of the last times. I'd be shocked if we see more movement after that because, I mean, at this point, college football is becoming something completely just, you know, schools are just all over the place. Like I said, in my brain, it's still weird thinking that we have USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon in the Big Ten. Like, it don't even sound right. But that's where the money resides, and so that's where they are. It surprisingly, it's led to some interesting games because we've seen schools beat schools that, if we go back a year or 2 ago, I don't see that happening. Like, I don't see Iowa beating, who did they just beat? Washington? Wasn't Washington in the national championship a year ago? I mean, I guess it's a different team now. Players come and go. Guys get drafted. Rome Odunze ain't there no more. The quarterback ain't there, right? So I guess you can say it's a different team, but it's like on paper, I'm like, no, I'm probably picking Washington to win that game, and then that game happens, and it's a completely different turnout. Yeah. Like I said, more speculation. And I've been saying this for a while. And like I talk to who I talk to on Twitter, you know, I tweet things, I interact. But at the end of the day, I am pro NIU ending up somewhere where we can make money. That's what I'm pro. That's what I'm pulling for. I'm not necessarily pro this particular conference or that particular conference or yada, yada, yada. I am pro NIU moving where they can make money. Because I don't think the MAC I just don't envision whatever deal is coming up. I just don't envision the MAC getting a fair shake. And I feel like they might never really truly get a fair shake. It's kind of petty. It's really petty. But on the other end, it's like, has the MAC done things to help themselves out? They really haven't. Not that I know of, right? For instance, like you have, you got what is it? TNT. TNT lost what they had with the NBA, and I'm like, I mean, you would have an NBA TNT game like every day, every other day. There was a game on, right? You got Shaq, Charles Barkley, right? You got the like a all-star, like them dudes commentating, you know, at the halftime or whatever this, that like that became a normal part of life. And then now we look up and like that's gone. Like this NBA season we're going into, that's not a thing anymore. Like there will be no more NBA on TNT, and it kind of sucks. But what it opens the door to is potentially TNT might look into some other things. What other sports can we look into? What other things can we, right? What else can we potentially throw some money at? What can we throw some money at? I would have loved to have heard, oh, here's the MAC getting in talks with TNT to figure out some sort of deal where MAC games on Saturdays, Friday nights, you all can air our games, right? This is what we're looking to do. This is what we're looking to make. That, sadly, is not something that I've heard come up with in relation to the Mid-American Conference. I have heard it come up in relation to the Mountain West. So I'm like, we're just in two different places with things. That's why there's so many, there's people who have a level of confidence with the Mountain West actually getting a decent deal done. People are like, well, the Mountain West, they're about to lose money. They're not going to make anywhere near as close to the amount of media rights money they were making right now. There could be some truth to that. That's what makes this all scary and kind of crazy. Like I said, this is all speculation. That is what makes it scary and crazy. Because like I said, if I double back and go back to hearing that it may have been mentioned that the Mountain West just might want to be a 9-team football conference, that's kind of negative in my book. Like, I don't view that necessarily as a positive. I don't view it as a positive at all. Because what you might be telling me is you might be having to more go that route because of the money. Because if you hit 10, 11, 12 football teams, that payout isn't going to be as much, right? So you're kind of you're hitting the brakes and stopping at 9 to ensure more of, you get what I'm saying? To ensure your schools are getting, you know, maybe 3-4 million each, right? And that's a different type of thing. In the way that things go right now, right? Why is the SEC and Big Ten and was really primarily SEC and Big Ten? I guess you can kind of say the Big 12 as well. These conferences are getting bigger. Even the ACC, right? Technically, they had 3 editions. These conferences are getting bigger. They're not getting smaller. They're getting bigger. And with them getting bigger, when it comes time for a new deal, that payout is getting bigger. Now, I know I get it. Every school in each one of those conferences, especially the SEC and Big Ten, Those are household names. Every school in there is a household name. Every one of them. Right? You get to the ACC, we know Miami, we know Florida State. Right? Those are two for sure. You know Clemson. Right? You know North Carolina. You might know North Carolina more for basketball than for football. But North Carolina football has had its very good years as well. Right? You know Duke. Right? You know Virginia Tech. Right? You know these schools. Right? The Big 12 on the other hand, right? Even then, like, clearly they have household name schools. They have name brand schools. Some of those schools are on the come up, right? As a brand, like, they're increasing. Their value is going up, right? Cincinnati, UCF, Houston. They're going to hit that point, especially Houston in basketball. People know who Houston is. Their basketball definitely skyrockets them up there a bit more when it comes to notoriety, right? But if you don't know who UCF is, University of Central Florida, well, we know football, they're really good. They had that year once again where it's like, well, they won every game and they self-declared themselves as national champs and they didn't get a fair shake, right? But that's the stuff we love about college football, drama, right? And it's like, damn, could UCF, if you had put them against so-and-so, could they have shocked somebody that year? We'll never know. But they are in the Big 12 now. They're making some big money, right? So their brand is going to grow. It's going to keep increasing. It's going to keep going up. Cincinnati, same thing, right? Cincinnati may not be the biggest name, right? You're in the shadow of Ohio State, and they probably always will be. But if you clearly have to rank those schools and those teams in the state of Ohio, there's going to be Ohio State and then Cincinnati. And then it's just down from there, right? Right behind Cincinnati just might be Toledo, right? But the gap between Cincinnati and Toledo is pretty damn large, right? You see the difference? It's like, I can say Toledo is right underneath Cincinnati, right? Toledo is the next best football team behind them. But the gap when it comes to finances and this, that, the other, light years away. The money is increasing with the teams. So to me, like I said, there's a bit of fear when I hear something, like I said, and this isn't officially coming out of anybody's mouth. At least I don't think so. But it has been put out there that the Mountain West might just want to be sitting at 9 football teams. And that's a fear to me because I'm like, the Mountain West, let's say NIU, it is just NIU that moves to the Mountain West. NIU still at 12 schools. And I mean, the MAC is at 12 schools. MAC's at 12 for football. Mountain West is at 9 for football. By default, the MAC will have more games on a weekly basis. You have more teams. You got more teams. Is the Mountain West and their footprint strong enough where 9 is okay? That's my concern going forward. It's like, is 9 okay? Because I don't envision or believe at all, like, the PAC is not stopping at 9 schools. No, they're not stopping at 9 for football. There's no way in hell. The PAC is more than likely aiming 10 minimum. And even then, 10, to me, 10 ain't enough. They're probably going to shoot for 12 for football. Right now, they're at 7. Meaning they got 5 spots that they could potentially shoot for football. They got 5 spots they can shoot for football. And 4 of those 5 seem like they're pretty much going to be promised to AAC schools. At least 4 out of the 5. Memphis being one, UTSA potentially being, if I had to rank them, Memphis being one of them, and then Tulane being a strong second option, right? Memphis and Tulane seem like two for sure that the AAC are going to try to add. And then after that, it's kind of a toss-up a bit, but a lot of people are like, well, it'll probably be UT San Antonio and USF. Me, I could personally see UT San Antonio, and I could see Rice, right? That's 11 schools for football. And then God forbid that the PAC has done so much now that they convince UConn to leave the Big East for basketball and to join for football. I still don't think that'll happen. What I think is going to happen is I think the UConn, I still envision holding out and joining the ACC. That makes way more sense for UConn. I do not see them joining the PAC. So I do see the PAC going after them. If they land them, well, NIU's cooked. Because NIU, they would have no reason. They don't have to go for more than 12. Now, if they truly believe, we want to make this a pretty strong football conference. We want to have clearly our West Coast representation, but we also want to have an Eastern representation, and then we also have some Central time zone. Maybe they add NIU. Shit, they might. At that point, you could you could do NIU and Toledo. NIU and Toledo come join us, and that's when you could actually say, all member, we want to have you all join as full members. We are now a 15-team conference with one of the 15 not competing in football. So we have 14 football schools, 15 basketball. We're going to rock and we're going to go from there. Are you going to get the same exact deal payout-wise as the Big 12? No, I don't think you're hitting that same number. But I think they would get pretty close. I'm not going to lie. I think the PAC could pull some shit off. And like I said, this is all speculation. All speculation, all completely made up. There's nothing at all whatsoever saying that the PAC would even entertain going after NIU and Toledo. But it wouldn't hurt. To me, at that point, it would not hurt. The PAC will have then dipped their damn toe into, like, low-key. That might be one of the most interesting conferences in all of college sport. Like, they will have essentially assembled, when you look at it and think about it, they will have put together and assembled, hands down, the best group of, I guess at that point, group of 6. That would be the best group of 6 conference. If you take the Mountain West schools that you took, or let's just list them out, Oregon State and Washington State, 2 former power conference schools, but in reality, like, their alumni base doesn't just disappear because they're not in the PAC anymore. Their stadium doesn't downsize because they're not in the PAC anymore, right? These things don't just disappear because they're not in the PAC anymore. The money don't just go poof because they're not in the PAC anymore, or the original PAC, but they're still in the PAC. But all those things don't just disappear because the Pac-12 is no longer the Pac-12 that we were accustomed to. Oregon State and Washington State are still big schools, and they would essentially be, I want to say, the 2 biggest schools in the conference, I would think, right? Now we got Boise, San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Utah State, right? So we got those 5. Gonzaga, basketball powerhouse, Gonzaga. Non-football, but they'll compete in everything else. Gonzaga. So you have 7 schools that are mainly primarily taking up your Mountain and Pacific time zone. That's your Mountain and Pacific time zone right there. 7 schools, really 8. Let's look at the other end. So you have 7. Actually, this would be super interesting. That's 7 schools. If we're just purely looking from the football point of view, that's 7 schools. Once again, Mountain and Pacific. You're now dipping into the AAC, Memphis. I want to say Memphis. If Memphis, Tennessee, I think that's Central. I wish I had a map in front of me. I want to say Memphis, Tennessee is Central time zone, potentially Eastern, but I want to say they're Central time zone. So you got Memphis, Central time zone. Tulane got to be Eastern. That has to be Eastern time zone. But maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong again. So either Tulane is Central or Eastern. So you got Memphis, Tulane, UT San Antonio. Shit. Is San Antonio? San Antonio might be Central or Eastern. I can't, like without a map, it's kind of difficult to tell where those schools exactly land. But Central or Eastern is one of them two. You got, and this is where it's like, okay, if you add USF, okay, you're for sure Eastern time zone. That's your Eastern time zone right there, right? USF, that's for sure giving you the Eastern time zone. If you go with Rice instead, Rice is, I want to say Rice is Houston. So you have Houston, you have your Houston representative. Houston is, I want to say Houston Central. I feel a little bit more confident about that one for some reason, but I want to say Houston is Central time zone. But then again, for all I know, they're probably Eastern. Central or Eastern. And then you got, so we just said that's 4. Those are the 4 AAC schools. You needed 5. Am I missing somebody? Hold on. We got 7 for football already. You added Memphis, 8. Tulane, 9. UTSA, 10. USF, 11. I forgot you needed 5 for football. So you could create the interesting situation where the PAC can add 5. It's not even a situation of the PAC adding 4. The PAC can go to the AAC and be like, we want you, and you. They could go take Tulane, Memphis, UTSA, Rice, and USF and create the pettiest situation on earth. That would hurt. Because if they're like, we want 12 for football, there you go. You got 12. You got 12. And it don't make sense at that point to not go into the Eastern time zone. Why just stop at the Central? You want the Eastern time zone. So they're adding USF. They're adding USF. If and only if they're like, we want to push it a little bit further. We want to tap into 2 more markets. For some odd reason at that point, they're like, well, yeah, let's tap into Chicago. Let's dip into Ohio a little bit. Then you add NIU and Toledo. What you really just did, that works out. Like I said, all speculation. You can have your PAConference. And create 2 7-team divisions. 7, which is the East, and 7 West. And now you're creating a situation where that works out really nicely for the PAC. The PAC would be, you would be across all time zones. And you wouldn't necessarily be putting half of your conference in a situation where travel's a major issue or major concern. That would be pretty interesting. I'm not even gonna, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. it would not hurt the PAC at all to create a 15-team conference. And like I said, you got Gonzaga there, basketball only, but they're bolstering the conference still. They're a value add still. They're better with Gonzaga than without Gonzaga. Let that sink in. They're better with Gonzaga than without Gonzaga. 15-team conference, 14 for football. You can still have 15 for basketball, right? Maybe you're petty. Maybe you're petty and you're like, NIU, we want you for football only. Toledo, maybe Toledo gets all sports. But NIU, we're still willing to pay you out, da-da-da-da-da. Right? It's still a nice chunk. So now it kind of equals itself out. We have our 14 football representatives, 14 basketball representatives. Right? They can go that route if they wanted to. But the payout should be so much. Like, whatever deal they strike, it would have to be a number. If you land them teams, you land those teams, I can see a number that comes real close, that comes real nice and real close to a Big 12 payout. It ain't going to be the same number. No. It can't be the same number, because if the PAC could hit a 25, 26 million payout, then they're dipping into the Big 12. So, yeah, I don't think they're hitting that number, but they could hit a number that is more than nice enough, 15 mil payoff to each school, maybe even 17, 15, anywhere between 15 and 20 mil. Anywhere between 15 and $20 million. I think the PAC could mess around and pull that off. That would be some good TV. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. At that point, are you still the Pacific Athletic Conference? It gets weird. It gets really weird, because it's like, well, you have a whole division that is the Eastern, like you have a division that's the eastern half of the country, and you have a division that's the western half of the country. At that point, technically, would the PAC really be Conference USA? Technically, when you want to be funny about it, that would actually be pretty dope. Like, I'm not gonna go tweet that. I'm gonna see what traction I get, because like I said, I'm all for NIU making money. So if I gotta create this scenario where this is NIU's path to the PAC and getting them in, and potentially Toledo or something in, there we go. There we go. Like I said, all of this is speculation. None of it is real. None of it is right. I'm just spitballing at this point. Like I said, that last option, AAC. This is the reality where, right, the Mountain West has talked to NIU. NIU has to figure out things with not just football, but because we have to figure out placement of the rest of our sports, right? We can't just accept an offer right away with the Mountain West. Let's say while all this is transpiring, the PAC starts making moves on AAC. Like I said, the PAC, if they start making moves on the AAC, and let's say whatever that evaluation is like, if you add this school, this school, this school, and this school, right? Like I said, mainly keying in on football. Let's say the PAC is more of the conference that's like, well, we only really need 10 for football. If y'all can get 10 for football, but it's these particular schools, if you get Tulane, Memphis, and it gets weird, because I'm like, who would the third school be? Who would the clear-cut third school be? Would it be UTSA? Would it be Rice? Or would it be USF? I don't know. Like I said, if you get USF, you are for sure in the Eastern time zone. If you get UTSA, you have the better. Actually, I mean, is UTSA the better of the three that are in Texas that are in that conference, because you got North Texas, you got Rice, and you have UTSA. I don't know which one is the better of the three. Some people are like, the Pac might go after Texas State. They might. If, like I said, for some reason they're like, Pac, if you add Memphis, huge. You add Tulane as well, huge. And then if you add this school here, right, it will get you whatever, right? Y'all will have a nice 15 mil payout for each school. Y'all can run a 10-team football conference. It'll be 11 teams for basketball. And they could still add another school for basketball if that was like, they might not want 11, they might want 12. So they can still go add another school for basketball at the end of the day. So who knows what the Pac might be doing. But let's say that happens, they add 3 from the AAC. They don't go and add 5, they don't add 4, they just add 3. They go from Memphis, Tulane, and I'm gonna just say Rice. I'm gonna say Rice because of location. They add those 3. And yeah, so now you got 3 openings in the AAC. The AAC ain't really in competition with the Mountain West because the AAC for sure has money. The AAC is in a situation where it's like, we have that secured deal. We know what we have coming in. And because they know what they have coming in, they get first dibs now on teams. They could go after NIU and be like, NIU, join us for all sports. NIU, with a $7 million payout, could essentially afford all sports. They could. Toledo with a $7 million, they could afford all sports. But like I said, the Mountain West, to me, versus AAC, it gets rough. NIU will probably always be looking to take an offer where it can be all sports instead of just one sport only. They'll probably be looking for the situation where they can move all sports. And surprisingly enough, the PAC and the AAC give them that all sports opportunity. Like I said, in the beginning, it was like, well, the PAC or Mountain West would probably be football only. But like I said, I have the feeling, and it's still in my gut, the PAC is going to get a high enough payout that will make all sports possible for a school like NIU, for a school like Toledo. It'll make all sports possible and doable. If they make what I think that they could make, NIU probably still wouldn't even have to travel super far. That's the crazy part. Like I said, you can make a division. If they go the division route, you can make your PAC East and your PAC West, and you could have one crossover game. Or no, I'm going, that's a little bit wrong. If you have a PAC East and you have 7 teams, that's 6 games. That would for sure be in the East. And then 2 more would be your crossover. So you play just 2 more games against schools in the Western half. And there you go. It's very doable. It's very doable. And the money would make it happen. So, like I said, all this is speculation. All these, like, I believe that these are the thoughts. I believe that these are the thoughts that are happening, right? And I've been saying this for a while. I believe these are the thoughts that are happening, not that these things are actually happening. The thoughts that if you're a school like NIU, if you're a school like Toledo, if you're a school like even Texas State, if you're a school like Middle Tennessee, if you're a school like Liberty, if you're one of these schools, you're just kind of waiting to see what happens. And I think that's the situation NIU's kind of in. With the Mountain West, they're sadly in a situation where it's like they would have to drop everything else out of the MAC and either go Horizon, Ohio, or Missouri Valley, whichever the one of the three will take the rest of their sports. Then you move NIU into the Mountain West for football. But like I said, that one's kind of rough if you're moving just for football. And it's just going to be those 9 teams. Because whatever your media eval is, unless you make some huge splash additions on the basketball side, yeah, that's what it does turn into a situation where it's like, what does that media rights payout turn into? Because do people want conferences with less teams, or do they want conferences with more teams, right? Do they want a healthy mix? Do people want to see a conference that has 12, 14 schools in it? Or is 9 okay for football? But is that 9 okay really more based off the strength of the 9? Right? That's where it gets a little different. Right? So, yeah, I mean, things are real. I think they're going to get real interesting real soon. All of this is speculation. All of these are really my thoughts. And like I said, you've seen me come to like 2 different epiphanies in this video alone. Like, you've literally seen me come to the realization that if NIU moves for football only, that would be like the first time I think I've ever seen, or we've really seen, a school do that, where they moved from a conference, dropped all their other sports to some other Division I level conference, and then moved football directly into something else. Like, they didn't leave their conference, go independent, and then move. It was just direct move. And I don't know the last time I've seen that. Like, I can't think of a scenario where I've seen that. Yeah. I just can't. I'm trying to think in this modern era, like, where have we done that before? And then, like I said, like, I may have figured out what's the sneaky way to get NIU and maybe Toledo into the PAC, or NIU and Texas State into the PAC, or NIU and Sam Houston into the PAC, right? It could be the PAC making a 14-team football conference. Or no, matter of fact, at that point, I think everybody would just be a full member, because you have the money to make everybody a full member. Like, the payout just might be good enough for everybody to be a full member that you do it, right? You end up going for this 15-team conference. 14 of those teams are 14 of those teams are football. And then then all 15 are there playing basketball. Or maybe NIU's football only, and then the rest are, but that would be no different than the Mountain West situation, but the money would be different. The money situation with the Mountain West versus the potential money situation with the PAC is just 2 different scenarios. Going football only in the PAC, depending on how much money they might be throwing out there, versus football only in the Mountain West, is just 2 different things. So that's the reason why you would have to look at it a lot differently. Like I said, you just may have so much money coming in that a full membership should be a non-issue. And because the way the conference would be set up, guess what? These schools could actually afford to more comfortably move around and play each other. If anything, that's not a merger type situation, but it's almost like you'd be creating a situation where the PAC could be doing the one thing that a lot of folks said kind of, sort of could have happened in the past, where you make a group of 5 conference and just take all those best teams and put them together. Whereas, like, you take the Boise States of the world, you take an NIU, you take this school, you take that school, and you put them all in one really big conference, and you make whatever little divisions you make, and just let those schools kind of try to thrive or do whatever. The PAC potentially could make that really happen. they really are in the driver's seat to pull off something like that. So, yeah, it gets real interesting. Like I said, these are a lot of my thoughts. And it's real interesting. Because like I said, things are quiet right now. And we have no real proof at all that the Mountain West Conference has actually reached out, once again, to NIU or Toledo. But the thought is that it's very much happening. It's very much happened. Like I said, the reason why we may have heard absolutely nothing is because the talks between the Mountain West and NIU then turn into talks between NIU and the Horizon League, NIU and the Ohio Valley, NIU and Missouri Valley, right? There's more steps in that than it is when UTEP joined the Mountain West. It was just straight up, well, we're choosing to take all of our teams and join your conference. This one's a little bit more different, a little more, it's a little more sensitive. Like, there's more steps to this. There really are. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. You know, what do you think is really going on? Like, something's going on, right? I'm not one of these people that are going to sit here, NIU ain't going nowhere. NIU's not in no talks. Y'all are crazy. No. Talks are happening. But the thing is, we don't know any of these damn talks. When it comes to the MAC, for some damn reason, for a conference that, like, the MAC is just a tight-lipped conference. It seems like even like you just don't know what the hell's going on with the MAC until it happens. Like, UMass joining the MAC, people did not know until it was official for the most part. Right? UMass joining the MAC was not it is speculated that UMass is in talks with the Mid-American Conference. No. It was pretty much deal kind of done once you heard that news of UMass is officially going to join the MAC. That's what that was. So on the MAC side, you really don't be hearing nothing until it happens. So yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of dry right now, but there's no real way to know what's going on, what's happening. Like I said, we're just trying to focus on the game tomorrow, NIU versus Toledo. Right? Like, you have two schools that another conference. Here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it'll be brought up. I'm pretty sure it will be. I would not be shocked if one of them announcers early on in the game, halfway through the game, near the end of the game, I don't know, brings up literally, currently there's conference realignment, conference expansion, and, you're just watching two teams that are being targeted by another conference. So, you get to see these two teams play each other, but you don't even know if they'll still be members of the conference by the end of the season. Like, somebody's going to bring that up because, yeah, stir the pot even more. So, yeah, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, things like that on all of this. What moves do you think are going to happen? Yeah, it's fun. It's fun because this is, like I said, this is the first time in all the years I've been alive hearing a school or hearing a conference have interest in NIU. So, it's fun being able to be a part of the conversation. It's that simple. Peace.